Hello, YouTube. It's your girl, Denizy, and I am back this week. I'm sorry if you were worrying about me last week. I just wasn't feeling well enough to get back on camera. But don't worry, I still tuned in on Baddies East, and today is going to be a Denizy double feature because I'm covering both episode 5 and 6. So this is going to be a pretty long episode, so get comfortable. But if you just want to watch me cover episode 6, I will put the timestamp in the description and on this video. So you can just go ahead and scroll over there. I'm going to get straight into episode 5. This is the fight that we've all been anticipating. And I was a little bit disappointed because it was only 30 seconds. But nonetheless, we got to see Tasiki completely eat these girls up. I'm talking about Krishan's friends, Thing 1 and Thing 2. Now, Thing 1 was first up to fight Tasiki, and I thought that she would have stood somewhat of a chance because, she does have a muscular build, but I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. All that matters is good technique, which Tasiki clearly has. She landed every single punch and dodged every single punch that Thing 1 had thrown on her. Not only that, she completely knocked Thing 1 onto the ground and just laid her out like she was a roach. Thing 1 had her legs and her arms flailing in the air when Tasiki threw her on the ground. So yeah, Tasiki got her lick back finally. Thing 1 was bleeding pretty bad, all on the side of her face. And it even got on Tasiki's shirt. So when Thing 2 came around now for her turn to fight Tasiki, at that point, you should have just ran away. Your friend's blood is literally on this girl's shirt that you're about to fight. And I just wanted to point out that Zeus Network came ready for this fight. I'm talking about this fight was a whole production. I counted 7 cameras that I can see from this still, not including the camera that we're getting this shot from. So it's really at least 8 cameras. So with all these cameras around, I was really hoping that we would get better angles and better shots of the fights, and that they would kind of drag out the scene a little bit because we only got a few seconds of each fight. So that's really my only critique. I feel like maybe the editors could have done some split camera and shown Tasiki's point of view on one side and then Thing 1 or Thing 2's point of view on the other side, and make it more like cinematic or dramatic or like an MMA fight. But no, we still got the same shaky camera and super duper awkward close-ups like we always do. I guess shame on me for expecting a little bit more, but still, with all the production crew around and the security team scattered everywhere, for some reason nobody noticed a little pink Barbie doll just get closer and closer every frame. Of course, I'm talking about Mariah. So Mariah swoops in and sneaks Thing 2 in the face, which she already told Tasiki ahead of time last episode that she was going to do. And I just wish that Tasiki would have told her to not step in when they were having that conversation instead of after the fact that she already punched the girl. I really wanted to see Thing 2 get beat up by Tasiki. So Mariah, you kind of ruined that for me. However, you did save that girl because you saw what she did to your friend, and you were going to end up even worse because Thing 2 was even tinier and just less muscular than Thing 1. And Thing 2, she wasn't even squaring up correctly. She just looked so scared and just frail. So she wasn't going to make it. And when I was sitting here and I was thinking about why all of this even came to be, I'm a little torn because it's easy to blame Krishan for instigating all of this. But at the same time, it's we need to have that conversation as to why Krishan would do such a thing. It's clear to me that Krishan, to an extent, fears her sister. We've heard Tasiki threaten to beat up Krishan. We've also seen her get aggressive with Krishan as well and almost swing on her. And even Sky is going to say that, those threats that Tasiki was throwing at Krishan, that is the reason why Sky got up on the bus like she did and got in between the two sisters so that they wouldn't fight. Because I think that Sky thinks that Tasiki would have hit her for real. I also feel like Tasiki would have hit Krishan for real because Krishan just has this fear in her face when she looks at Tasiki or when she's around Tasiki. I can only assume, because I have an older sister as well, that growing up, Tasiki probably would beat up Krishan all the time. And Tasiki's in her 30s and Krishan is in her 20s. So we're talking about a 10-year age gap between the two girls. So Tasiki doesn't really have any respect for Krishan because she probably looks at Krishan like she's a little girl. So I say all of that basically to understand Krishan's reasoning behind getting her sister jumped by her friends a little bit more. But I still disagree with that. Like, she's definitely in the wrong for getting her siblings jumped. I know I would never get my siblings jumped. And Tasiki is also in the wrong for all the threats and all the water throwing and spitting at Krishan that she's been doing, because your sister is clearly terrified of you. So even if you were saying it as a joke, she doesn't take it as a joke. But either way, I'm ready for Krishan to get off the show and just let Tasiki take over, because I like watching Tasiki more. Tasiki is funnier, more entertaining, and I can actually understand what Tasiki is saying, unlike Krishan. Just keeping it 100. So moving on to Whoa Vicky. You guys, she is comedy gold. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that somebody obviously coached Whoa Vicky to get up on that ledge and start screaming Jesus loves y'all, because I just don't think that Whoa Vicky is like, I don't want to say not smart enough, but like she's definitely not like contriving enough to come up with that idea by herself. And then when she's screaming Jesus loves y'all, you can see her look around and just make sure that everybody is looking at her when she's saying that. And the first time she said it, you can see Sky being the only one to react and kind of just looking at Will Vicky like, girl, shut up. And just as a complete side note, I looked up Sky during her Black Ink Crew days. I saw like a compilation of her best moments on the show. And let me tell you, this is the moment where the real Sky from Black Ink Crew comes out just a little bit, because she is so tame and calm on this show, and she's acting more like a big sister figure, which is good. We like to see the growth, but this face that's just Sky. That's Sky for real. And then I also noticed Thing 2 in the back, looking pretty amused by Whoa Vicky. She definitely thought it was funny and was laughing along. All the other girls, were either talking to each other or just ignoring Whoa Vicky. But it was just the fact that Whoa Vicky kept repeating herself. It was like she was on that ledge for like a good 2 minutes just shouting. And I think that this is why Krishan was really annoyed. So when Thing 2 looked over at Krishan and saw Krishan's face, Thing 2 was not laughing anymore. This scene was so crazy to me because it was almost like that recreation between Will Smith and Jada at the Oscars when Chris Rock was making that joke. Like, Will Smith was laughing, and so he looked over at Jada and saw that she wasn't laughing. Then that's when he got mad and serious. So then when Krishan sends Thing 2 to go attack Will Vicky, it was like that moment when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. So then when Will Vicky sees that girl coming for her, and Thing 2 is obviously a track star, she definitely was running down low to the ground like this. Like, clearly Krishan and all her friends met in school on the track team or something. But Whoa Vicky had the reaction of every single white woman in all of the scary movies. And that's really the only funny part to me about this whole situation. Because I'm not trying to laugh at Whoa Vicky getting assaulted like that, because she's really fragile. But when she screamed and she said, that was funny. That was funny. Now, luckily for her, I don't think that Thing 2 did that much damage. Just looking at the way that Thing 2 was handling Whoa Vicky, she just kind of like held on to Whoa Vicky. It was just kind of like, just slapping her around like a cat. I was really disappointed that security would let this non-cast member attack an actual cast member. It seemed like the whole cast just found it funny though. Except Scotty. You can tell Scotty here was actually concerned. She just kept screaming at security like, why would you let her do that? And I just also want to point your attention to this female security guard. I talk about my man Chris a lot, but this female security guard, we've been getting her a lot more on camera lately, which I like because she's very reactive with her face. So I get a lot of good information from her. Now, unfortunately, we still don't have her name. I don't know if I should just make up her name for her, or I could just let you guys give her a name. But in this scene, she's actually really pissed off and just like rolling her eyes and, shaking her head, because she just knew. It's like she just knew that the men weren't doing their jobs in keeping Vicky safe. And now Vicky is pressing charges and suing everybody. Now, I don't want you guys to think that she's, just very serious and miserable or anything like that, because she actually has a sense of humor. In episode 6, when I get to it, she's actually laughing when T and Scotty go back and forth. And if you recall back to the first episode of Jocelyn's Cabaret, when Natural and Wet Wet were in the car and they were trying to fight Yummy while Yummy was in the passenger seat, this security guard was actually cracking up at Wet Wet just being her goofy self. So she's definitely one of my favorite security guards, and I'll keep watching out for her along with my man Chris, of course. But anyways, it's not like, whoa, Vicky went out like a coward, okay? She was actually swinging back. It wasn't much. It was like, but at least she tried to defend herself. And Sky is gonna make the joke that these girls, thing one and thing two, obviously must be on Krishan's payroll. And Krishan is gonna respond and say, yeah, they are on payroll. And I feel like a lot of people took that as a joke, but I think that Krishan is telling the truth here because, for one, Krishan doesn't really joke like that. She's not really the sarcastic type. Second of all, the outfits that these girls came in, if you look at the lettering that's on like the butt of the shorts, it says Hoes Mad, which is actually an up and coming clothing company from LA. I say up and coming because the clothing isn't really that expensive. Like the hoodies are, the typical $50 to $60, and the shirts are the typical $20 to $30. And Krishana is also wearing a Hose Mad sweatshirt, that little cropped sweatshirt that she has on. It says Hose Mad on her left side. So clearly Krishana's been doing some shopping and decided to gift these girls some shorts. So Krishan could really be paying these girls either through clothing or like physical money or physical checks, or even through exposure, because from what I read somewhere, I don't know if this is accurate, but it seems like thing one and thing two have actual businesses outside of the show and being Krishan's friends. So she could also be supporting them through those ventures. And then my last point is that you knew that your sister was going to beat these girls up and you still sent them to get beat up, and they still willingly got beat up. There ain't no friendship that strong to get beat up for your friend if you knew that you were going to get beat up like that. And my fourth point, which I think is the point that everybody is kind of forgetting, is that these girls were allowed on a closed set. They're not going to let random strangers just walk on a set, especially onto a taping of a show that is projected to get millions of views on a network. Because on other Zeus Network shows, when a cast member brings their outside friends and shares the location to where they're filming, it has been a problem. So I don't think that Zeus Network is cutting that check, but I think Krishan is definitely cutting that check. And we'll see on episode 6 how they just have easy access to FaceTime Natalie and answer for Krishan on her behalf. Like, yeah, they're definitely on her payroll, guys. Now to get back on Will Vicky, because I was feeling really bad for her at the end of episode 4 when we saw the previews. I was like, why you gotta pick on, the frail little girl out of all people? But now I'm changing my mind because, well, Vicky, you see, I knew she was a troll, but I really had thought that she had left her troll ways in her childhood now that she's grown, but she is still that same troll that she was. She just hides behind Jesus now. Because how are you going to say that that was fun and that you want to do that again? Like the real Whoa Vicky came out in this split second. And then you can see Scotty, Smiley, and the female security guard turning around just looking at Whoa Vicky like, girl, is you serious right now? So then Sky goes up to Will Vicky and tries to basically tell Will Vicky that, her message is right, but her timing is just wrong. And Will Vicky coming down off of the adrenaline that she just had, she just starts like this crazy rant about what the Bible says, and then starts going off on Krishan. And Will Vicky's gonna say that Krishan would square up with the fly for just looking at her. And then it's moments like this where I try to hate Will Vicky, but she says some dumb stuff that is just so hilarious, and I just can't with her. But I agree with Sky in this scene. Will Vicky is doing too much judging and is hiding behind Jesus and the Bible to judge other people. I've been saying, if you don't like Krishan, then just say that you don't like Krishan. You don't have to use Bible quotes to talk about how Krishan is being unholy, right? So in the end, this scene was too much for Will Vicky, and she decides that she was gonna pack her bags that night and go home. Which I'm really sad that Will Vicky is leaving because she was very entertaining, and Zeus Network made a lot of money off of this girl. So I just hope that it was worthwhile for her. And did y'all notice the song that the editor played during Will Vicky's goodbye? It was like a soulful song, not quite gospel, but you could still, like play it at a church. And the lyrics were saying, I'm running away and nothing's gonna break me down. Moving on to the Scotty and T drama on the bus. I'm pretty neutral when it comes to these two girls, so I don't really care who's in the right and who's in the wrong. But as T is ranting about Will Vicky, she kind of lets us know that Will Vicky and her were friends way before they even started the show, and that Will Vicky was telling T that she's scared and that she doesn't want to fight anybody, and was basically asking T to have her back in case anything went wrong. So now T's upset because Will Vicky did all of this, instigating with Krishan basically to be on camera and to be messy, and then is gonna get herself beat up and say that she had fun while getting beat up. And then you add in the whole Christianity thing, and then T lets us know that she grew up in a religious cult. I can see why she's upset, and just given the face that she was giving Will Vicky when Will Vicky got into her fight, I believe everything that T is saying. But to Scotty's point, T is screaming a lot. Her voice is already annoying. The only thing that I do have to say to Scotty is that by the time that Scotty had told T to calm down, it looks like T was already beginning to calm down and stop yelling because she turned her head towards the window, signifying that she was done talking, and then she was going to just start looking out the window and just sit there and be alone with her thoughts. So Scotty, you could have gave this girl like 3 more seconds and she would have been quiet for the rest of the bus ride. During Scotty's confessional, I don't know who keeps giving her these props, but somebody gave her a sticky note and a pencil, and Scotty thought that she was going to be cute by writing out psycho because she thinks T is a psycho, but somehow nobody told her that she spelt it wrong. I mean, she has all the right letters, she just put the H in the wrong spot, but even the editor is shady for even keeping this clip in. Like, you guys could have at least photoshopped it to make it look like she spelled it right. Moving on to the club scene where we finally get to see all the girls perform. Scotty introduces Biggie on stage as if like Biggie just popped up on them, Sydney Star style, which I don't know why they're still trying to play it off as if Biggie is not a part of the cast. They gave her like 3 seconds of camera time and then moved on to Anna Mac. I believe that she's been tagging along with the cast this whole time, and then they don't have her in the house, but they definitely have her tucked away in a hotel or something and just calling her when they need her. But I still can't really tell you guys why they haven't put her in the house yet. I know they're going to soon because we see it in the trailer, but I just don't know why Biggie is letting them play her like that. Because I'm ready for Biggie. I'm ready for her to join the cast full time, on the road, traveling and fighting with these girls. It's also not a Baddies episode if we don't get a rant from Rolly. So Natalie, T, and Mariah are catching Rolly up with the events that happened the day before because Rolly wasn't feeling well, so she wasn't there. And then Rolly just starts ranting about how each cast member got to perform 2 or 3 songs at the club, and then that's just too many girls performing. There's too many songs, which I agree with. Maybe limit 1 song per girl. I don't think that anybody's music is particularly better than anybody else's, so let each girl just get 1 song and that should be the end of it. But of course Rolly's gonna go on about how these girls just write 1 song and then think that they are Cardi B all of a sudden. Which I'm thinking, who could she possibly be talking about? Because if you search up all of these girls' music, they have been making music for quite some time now. It's not nobody just writing 1 song. And Rolly doesn't really have anything to stand on because her music or her catalog isn't really charting anywhere. Nobody really knows it. So that's not a shade of Rolly. I'm still a big Rolly fan. I just don't be checking for music like that, or none of these girls' music, to be fair. I feel like these girls get Zeus famous, but then don't realize when it comes to TV and TV networks, like Zeus is at the bottom. Nobody really knows Zeus like that. Now, all of that is subject to change with all the clips from the show going viral on social media. But as of right now, 2023, people are still trying to bootleg Zeus Network. They don't see themselves paying $6 a month for a subscription to Zeus Network. So moving on, we close out the episode with DJ Sky running up on a Mac. Now, I definitely don't think that Natalie knew that DJ Sky was going to run up on a Mac. I feel like she was kind of expecting Scotty to do it, but I guess in an attempt to be allowed to stay in the house or be put on as an official cast member, she just had to start a fight with somebody. DJ Sky is going to tell us that she's not allowed in the house because she's just a tour DJ, which is some BS because you were the tour DJ last season too, and you were in the house. You were allowed to be in the house, and your job was to babysit Krishan, but now that Krishan doesn't really hang out in the house anymore, Krishan is always at a hotel and rides a separate van. They have no use for DJ Sky. So I don't really feel bad for her because you're letting these people treat you like trash, and then you do this dumb move for attention, which doesn't even work. Moving on to episode 6, DJ Sky run up on Anna Mac, just to get her ass beat by a woman who's 100 pounds. And this is why I say that these girls get hurt more tussling with security than actually fighting each other, because Anna is screaming, let go of my hair, let go of me, this entire fight. But I grabbed this still, and you can clearly see that DJ Sky has both of her arms out like this, and Anna Mac has a hold of her hair, and DJ Sky is not doing anything. She did no damage. Anna Mac says that DJ Sky just kind of like mushed her body onto her but didn't swing. And she's just letting Anna Mac drag her by her hair, and she's just taking it. She's just hanging there and just taking it. And this is why I personally don't like DJ Sky. She does too much for no reason at all, and she's just lame. Everything she does is just whack. And she's a really tall girl, but she still can't fight for nothing. Just like Scotty. Anna Mac really caught her second body with these two girls that are like twice her size. And for some reason, DJ Sky has this delusion that she like did something, that she beat up Anna Mac, when it's like the most damage you did was sit on her face. But that was Anna Mac's fault, because she was holding on to you while she was tripping and then took you down with her. And how can I forget? Even when you did all that, you tied your hair up, you put on a bandana, you put on Scotty's hat, Anna Mac knocked all that off your head and still beat you up. Like, this is just embarrassing. Anna Mac is starting to grow on me a little bit after this fight, because she was just so New York with it. I love how she was just like, your mother could suck my dick. If you ever fight with a New Yorker, 100% they're going to tell you that. And did y'all notice T screaming in this fight again? Like, every time somebody starts fighting, she has to scream like she's dying. But T is going to get into her own back and forth with Scotty, which this whole scene just made no sense, because honestly, I feel like must have whispered in Scotty's ear and told her to just start picking fights with everyone that she had a problem with. Even when she tries to swing on T, you can still see her smiling and laughing. And T was just trolling Scotty the whole time. It was hard not to laugh at T. And even if you look at the rest of the cast members, they're also trying to hold back their smiles and their laughs. But Scotty really waited till more cameras were around and that the rest of the cast was around as well to also witness her try to swing on T, which completely backfired, because you still didn't do anything. You already had your chance in the car. And then in your confessionals, you just keep saying, well, I'm gonna get her next time. Oh, in the next city, I'm gonna get her. Like, no, you're not gonna get her. Just like you're not fighting Anna Mac every day like you said that you was. Now you just look even more of a punk in front of your fellow castmates. So Scotty's really getting on my nerves. I don't understand why she gets as much camera time as she does. But I know she's Natalie's pet, so she's not gonna go anywhere. And Natalie is gonna take her favorites on to the private jet with her. And Natalie's really gonna play like they rented out the private jet for her and the baddies, when you can clearly see the other executives sitting back there. So I feel like it's really more of a private jet for the executives, and then there was extra seats, so they thought that they were just gonna bring on Natalie and whoever she decided to bring on with her. So I hope that the girls on the bus don't feel bad. But then the bus allegedly catches on fire, and I say allegedly because I believe it was a setup. The girls even say that they believe that it was a setup. And I'm gonna say it's a setup because the smoke, it seemed like it was coming from that little cutout in the seats where you can put the drinks. And like, that's just a great spot to hide like a little device to let out smoke. This is also not their first mishap on the bus across multiple Zeus shows. Although those other times they just had the bus driver really stomp on the brakes really hard so that everybody would go flying in their seats. I also want to point out how when the girls evacuate the bus, you can still see crew members stay behind and they're smiling. They're not even panicking. And why is it that it's my man Chris putting out the fire instead of like an actual fire guard on set with a fire extinguisher? And then they just left these girls out on the road, but they already had a second bus conveniently ready to pick them up. So either this was some really good pre-planning and they were prepared, or this was a setup. And I'm gonna choose setup because, you know, Zeus Network doesn't prepare for anything. They can't even have cameras rolling when the real action is happening. So then they get on the second bus and everybody's chit-chatting and having fun, but clearly T notices Saya is tearing up a little bit and she asks Saya what is wrong. Saya's gonna say that she hasn't been on the East Coast since her grandmother died. So it's just bringing back memories and taking her to a place where she's not able to continue to be on the show. So Saya makes the decision to leave, which I'm sad about because I thought that Saya's confessionals and commentary were actually really entertaining. So I am gonna miss that. But obviously, Saya, go take care of whatever you have to take care of. So at this point, we have lost, well, Vicky, we've lost Krishan, we have lost Saya, and they're still hiding Biggie in the closet for some reason. So Natalie in the new Philly house is gonna announce that they're bringing in the first replacement. She says that this person has been highly requested in the comments, which is good that they read the comments. So I guess don't go to the auditions, just request yourself in the comments. And so we find out the first replacement is Scarface. She is from Baddies South Central on Now That's TV. I don't watch Now That's TV, so I'm not familiar with Scarface. But just look at the smiles from every single girl in this still that I grabbed. It seems like everybody's really excited to either get to meet her or if they already know her, obviously, to have her on the show. And I notice how the camera keeps panning to Tasiki as if Tasiki was supposed to have like this sour reaction to Scarface joining the cast because Scarface has, in fact, fought Krishan in the past. I'm surprised that they've chose Scarface to join the cast because I did watch the clip of her audition and I feel like her audition went really bad. All the judges were kind of quick to throw her out of the room, but I guess they had a change of heart. But Tasiki is not in a good place with her sister right now, so she doesn't really care that the new girl is enemies with her sister. To be honest, I wouldn't either. Scarface is gonna have to piss Tasiki off on her own terms if she wants to fight her too, okay? But in the previews, it seems like Scarface gets into a fight with T instead. It just seems so out the blue because T was arguing with Rolly, not Scarface. But it's clear that Rolly and Scarface are friends outside of the show. So Scarface probably felt like she had to step in and fight for Rolly. Now, Rolly hasn't done much fighting so far because she's still recovering from her surgery, but it's not like she hasn't been instigating stuff. So Rolly is encouraging Scarface to beat up T. And I don't know, remember the pact that Scotty, Rolly, and Natalie have to kind of stick together and defend each other from the other girls? It seems like Scotty might have went behind the scenes and told Rolly a couple of things about T. So now Rolly doesn't like T because if you recall back to the second episode, Rolly admitted that she was a big fan of T's content on YouTube. So I don't really know what the problem that Rolly has with T is. It seems like it's just time to gang up on T now. So good luck to T. I hope that she defends herself well next episode. It seems like it's gonna be a chill episode, and then they'll probably do that thing again where they leave us on a cliffhanger and the fight with Scarface and T is actually later in the episode and we won't see the whole thing until next week's episode. So I'll see you for episode 7, even though I don't think it's going to be an interesting episode. I will be going away and I do have to pack my bags right now, but I should be back home by Monday. So until then, take care of yourself and I'll see you next time. Bye.